When we talk about the value ladder, we're talking about how men are assessed and ranked by women based on traits like physical appearance, status, emotional intelligence, personal character, and of course, financial stability. But right next to this ladder, it has occurred to me over the past 2 or 3 years as I've pondered this situation, is another invisible structure, which I'm going to call the sincerity ladder. Now, this ladder isn't about what a man brings to the table, but more about what a woman is actually bringing into the relationship in terms of intentions, emotions, and long term commitment. Because most of the time, all we ever hear about is what value does a man have for a woman, and the constant pressure of having to meet her unreasonable, even ludicrous expectations in the West. Now, in Asia, particularly in countries like Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam, Western men can often feel like kings. Even those who might not get a second glance back home can find themselves surrounded by attention. And it's a big but, not all that glitters is gold. Just because a younger woman is by your side, it doesn't mean that you're being genuinely valued. This is where the sincerity ladder becomes your litmus test for emotional authenticity. Now, first of all, let's talk about the wallet trap, leading with your financial value. The obvious, money. It's the number one bait that lures both genuine and disingenuous intention. If you lead with your wallet, lavish dinners, gifts, phone top-ups, vacations, even monthly allowances, you're sending out a very clear signal. This is what I offer, and this is how I want to be loved. Now, that's fine if you're entering a transactional relationship knowingly. But the danger is when you think you're in a real romantic bond and she's simply sticking around for the perks. An example is the allowance girlfriend, a retired Westerner on a state pension, meets a beautiful 24-year-old Filipina. She's sweet, attentive, quick to move in, but even quicker to start asking for help with the bills. Just until payday, she says. A few weeks later, her cousin needs tuition money, then it's the mother's hospital bills. Over time, the relationship becomes a one-way financial support system. He's footing the bill and she's playing the role. But if his pension was to vanish tomorrow, in all likeliness, so would she. Now, I know that if you're an older guy, maybe financially stable, that carries a lot further in Asia, and it's tempting to do what most guys have been conditioned to do in the West for centuries. To try and impress through gifts and expensive dinners out, excursions, etc. However, I'll tell you from my own personal experience in the Philippines that a simple date starts with a coffee at Starbucks, for which the average Filipina is a treat anyway, followed by unlimited chicken wings at 300 pesos a head, followed by a movie on Netflix back at my place in a nice air-conditioned apartment, followed by a bit of How's Your Father, if you know what I mean. Job done, everyone's a winner. That's it. For less than $10, $15, maybe $20 at a push. Back from where I'm from, I know guys, or should I say idiots, that in a desperate attempt to impress in Western standards would wine and dine at the most prestigious restaurants they could. For example, the Ivy, easily racking at $200 or $300, sometimes even $400 for the night. God forbid staying at a night in a hotel and it all starts to get a bit silly. Anyway, out here, you just don't do it. There's no need. Now let's talk about false signals, the social media commitment trap. You've been out on 2 dates. It went well. She's cute, sweet, and a bit shy. Then you notice that you're tagged in a Facebook post as her boyfriend. Huh? Suddenly, mutual friends start congratulating you. Wait, why? In the West, a few dates doesn't mean commitment. You take your time, as long as you want. But in Asia, especially with the more traditional small town or provincial girls, a date often implies serious attempt. However, the social media tagging can also be a manipulation tool. It publicly locks you in, creating proof of a relationship that's hard to escape without looking like the bad guy, even if you never agree to any of it. Why is this important? Well, because this could be a tactic, not a sign of affection, but a move to escalate the relationship before you've even had a chance to figure out what you're dealing with. So we have sincerity filter number 1, which is time versus take. One of the most effective ways to assess sincerity is to measure time invested versus what she's taking. A sincere woman will be happy to spend time with you doing menial things, that even boring things that don't cost anything. Walks, cooking together, hanging out at home, hanging the laundry up, maybe grabbing some street food and just chatting. An insincere one, well, she'll get bored very quickly, unless it's dinner, a trip out, or something expensive. You'll notice that she's only ever enthusiastic when the wallet's opened. So you got to ask yourself some questions. Is she ever suggesting low cost or even free activities? Or better still, does she ever actually try to save you money? For example, that taxi shouldn't have cost that. Let's get this particular mode of transport. Or it's better to shop at the local market for these particular items. Does she ever seem distant or disinterested unless you're spending? And have you ever seen a genuine interest from her in stories, your health, or your life? The beauty value sincerity equation. Now here's a cold truth. The more attractive she is and the older or less traditionally desirable you are, the more you need to really consider where on the sincerity ladder the relationship really is. That's not cynicism, it's pattern recognition. An older Westerner with modest means may find that even local 8s and 9s are showing you attention. But you've got to ask yourself why. Would she be with me if I was a Filipino tricycle driver making 12,000 pesos a month? Would she post me online if I wasn't a foreigner? Does she light up when I walk into the room, or just when I open Gcash to give her a top-up for some load? Sincerity filter number 2, family dynamics. Another litmus test is how she introduces you to her family. Now, a sincere woman integrates you into her life very quickly. She wants you to meet the parents, not just to prove something to them, but because you matter to her. However, a red flag is when the family introductions are immediately tied to financial requests. If meeting the family turns out to be a subtle pitch for a loan, a land investment, or tuition aid, and you get the feeling that you're expected to bankroll them until the end of time, step back. It's becoming clear you're not a boyfriend, you're more of an opportunity. So let's have a look at when traditional values could be a cloak. Sincerity can also be disguised under the banner of traditional values. Now, yes, many Asian women are genuinely family-oriented and marriage-minded, and nurturing as well, but for some, it's a clever costume. If the intimacy is based on the premise of marriage first, this could be a hook to get that ring on the finger to solidify her financial stability for the future. And then she starts to turn into a cold fish. For me personally, I'm not waiting for nothing. I want to sample the merchandise first. It's try before you buy or move on. Sometimes they say the right things. They talk about kids, loyalty, simple living. But behind the scenes, it's all a calculation. How quickly can I lock this guy down? What lifestyle can he provide for me? How much can I extract without giving too much of myself first? So look for consistency between words and actions. A woman who is traditional in values will be traditional in behavior. Now, the faithfulness mirage. You'll hear this a lot. I want a man who is faithful. Sounds beautiful, yeah? And most truly mean it. But it's not always reciprocal. A girl who's constantly accusing you of cheating or being suspicious without cause, it could be a projection of her own behavior. Some girls keep one foreigner for finances, another for intimacy, and a local boy on the side for familiarity. It's a shady game of musical chairs. So we have sincerity filter number 3, the disappearing act. Watch out for long periods of silence, vague excuses. I was busy with family that just don't add up. Hesitation to take photos with you in public, unless of course it benefits her online image. Night-only availability. Classic side guy treatment. Keep an eye on them. Now, the ultimate test here is called subtract the money. This one's simple, brutal, and effective. At some point in the early relationship, maybe within 2 to 4 weeks, go low maintenance. Stop sending money. Don't offer to pay every time. Let her come to you. And if she disappears, well, okay, you've got your answer. Sincerity on a budget is the only sincerity that counts. The signs of a high sincerity woman, well, let's flip the coin and focus on the good ones because, yes, they do exist and they're worth everything. She will show up even when there's nothing in it from her. She'll bring you food or cook without being asked. She'll remember little details about your life. She'll be protective of your health, your time, and also your stress levels. She'll want to make your home more comfortable and peaceful, and she will definitely defend you to other people. She'll be transparent about her life, where she goes and what she does. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. And if they care enough, and therein lies the key, if they do care enough, genuinely and sincerely, a woman won't hesitate to show all of the above. These women are the rare gems, and if you find one, treat her well, don't play games, be straight, clear, and strong. There have been many instances that I've seen where the arrogance of Westerners have resulted in a discretion that lost the girl that they really cared about the most, the one that wasn't prepared to accept or tolerate bad behavior, even from a Westerner. Some guys have to learn the hard way. That's usually the girl that's worth keeping. So, closing thoughts on this. It's the overlap of value and sincerity. In Asia, your value as a Western man is often inflated due to socioeconomic disparities. And that gives you an edge, and it's a nice edge to have, but it also paints a target on your back. You'll get offers, attention, affection, and not all of it is real. The key is understanding the difference between being wanted for who you are versus being wanted for what you offer. The sincerity ladder that runs parallel to your own value ladder is not just about climbing higher on hers, it's about checking if she's even on the same ladder or just climbing over you to get to something better. So stay sharp, don't be paranoid, but do be pragmatic. You are the commodity, yes, but only when paired with emotional intelligence and a filter that protects your heart and wallet from the insincere. Stay classy, play smart, and always remember, being loved well is better than being loved loudly.